Good morning, everyone. It's just a couple minutes before our starting time. So welcome, and we'll get started once it hits 9:30. Thanks for joining us. All right, so my computer has hit 9:30. Welcome to day 4, our last session of the ESI virtual conference for 2021. Um, Hopefully you've joined us for another session, but if you don't know, I'm Marcia Lacco, the section chief over the Environmental Assistance section within Division of Environmental Assistance and Customer Service, better known as DEECS. I hope you have joined us for some of our other sessions, but if not, along with today's sessions, once we get those recordings done, we'll get those up on our website along with the presentations as soon as we can. We've got some behind the scenes updating of our website right now, so we're keeping changes to it at a minimum, but once we're allowed to do that, hopefully within the next 2 weeks at the most, to get those up on the website. We'd like to thank Waste Reduction Partners in the Land of Sky for allowing us to use GoToWebinar and present this to you virtually so we could all meet instead of with the restrictions that we can't meet in person. So this morning, we're going to have a panel of DEQ staff talking about tax certifications and some opportunities to hopefully save some taxes for organizations. We're going to have one of our members talking about some sustainable packaging initiatives, and Angela Barger is going to wrap it up with some program updates for the ESI. So we're going to start off this morning, as I said, with the tax certification program. And I'm actually going to give a little overview, and then we're going to have staff from Division of Waste Management, Division of Water Resources, and Air Quality speak to each individual program. So tax certification is one of the things that you've probably maybe heard us mention when we've come out to your site. It's an opportunity for you to potentially save on your taxes because of the environmental things that you do. So we wanted to flesh that out, have it as a standalone so that people can look at this. You know, if down the road, right now you may not be able to apply, but you do something different, you have this information to refer to. So joining me today are Chris Hollinger with our Division of Waste Management, Jim Hafner with our Division of Air Quality, and Emily Richards from our Division of Water Resources. So Chris is the compliance officer in the solid waste section of DWM. He sits with coordinating the division's program for special tax treatment of recycling and resource recovery facilities and equipment. His responsibilities include working with businesses applying to the program to ensure that applications are complete and correct. He also performs the initial review of submitted applications. He holds a bachelor's degree in environmental science from Eastern Mennonite University in Harrisonburg, Virginia, and he has a Master of Science in Natural Resource Management from NC State, North Carolina State University. Jim Hafner is the current acting permits coordinator for the Division of Air Quality in the Winston-Salem Regional Office. He has been with DAQ for over 23 years and has been involved with air permitting and compliance. He holds a Bachelor of Science degree in Chemical Engineering from the Illinois Institute of Technology. And Emily Richards is bringing up our trio of speakers. Emily completed her master's in renewable natural resources at Louisiana State University, where she researched riverine nutrient transport. She has been working as an environmental specialist for the Department of Environmental Quality since 2018, and she specializes in permitting, compliance, and enforcement under the Clean Water Act's National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System program. All right, so I'm going to give a quick overview. Angela, can you just verify you're seeing the title slide?
No, because I changed presenters. Hang on, let me send it back to you.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
All right. Okay, you seeing it now?
I am.
Okay, perfect. All right, so we're going to talk about maybe some ways where you can save some dough through DEQ's tax certification program. All right, so we're going to give a little bit of an overview. Then we're going to talk about how each one of these applies. So there's different ones for different media. So there's tax certification you can get for resource recovery and recycling, for air pollution abatement, and for water pollution abatement. And the requirements are a little different, and the speakers are going to go into that. But I just wanted to highlight where the ability for these tax certifications come from. So General Statute 105-275-8 and North Carolina Administrative Code 15A 13B 1500 are what allow the local tax bodies to issue these tax certifications along with DEQ for certain types of real and or personal property, treated as a special class that's not supposed to be taxed. And it's available for property that is used exclusively for air cleaning, waste disposal, or to abate, reduce, or prevent the pollution of air or water, and recycling or resource recovery of or from solid waste. So one of the things I wanted to point out that there is no fee charged by DEQ for us to do our part of the tax certification. And just a couple terms that I want you to start thinking about. Each of our speakers will go through how this applies to their program, but they're very important in the tax certification process. So the equipment that you're asking to get certified must be used exclusively or 100% of the time for that pollution abatement or the recycling or resources recovery from the solid waste. And its primary purpose must be to reduce air or water pollutants or to recycle or recover resources when operation. They cannot serve another purpose. So think about those ideas as you're hearing about the different programs. And then there's a two-part submission process. So you're going to hear the speakers talk about the applications to the different divisions within DEQ, but you also have to apply to your local county tax administrator for the county in which the real or personal property is located. And then each tax exemption has some special requirements. So first off, the speakers are going to talk about that they have to be verified by each program, which will include a site visit. And then if it gets approved, you need to make sure that you have a process in place that if your equipment changes or you're no longer using it, that you change and make an application back to include those changes. And then the local county folks, they're going to base this on a lien date of January 1st of each year. So just so you know that. All right. So we're going to transition over to Chris to talk about the resource recovery and recycling.
All right. Can you see my screen? See the PowerPoint?
Perfect. Thanks, Chris.
Oh, very good. Hang on just one sec. Sorry, having a PowerPoint issue on my end. All right. All right, we still good?
You are still good.
All right, fantastic. Okay, well, good morning, everyone. It's great to be with you to talk a little bit about the tax certification program for recycling or resource recovery facilities and equipment administered by the Division of Waste Management. My name is Chris Hollinger. I am a compliance officer in the solid waste section, and one of my duties is to assist in administering this program. So during this presentation today, I am going to provide an overview of this program and the benefit it can provide. I am going to discuss some things that can qualify under this program and some things that do not. And finally, I'm going to talk a little bit about the application process and go over some tips for applying. So this program allows businesses to apply for tax certification of leased or owned equipment, building space, or land space used exclusively for recycling or resource recovery. Applicants provide the Division of Waste Management with a list of assets they believe qualify, and then the division inspects the assets to determine whether they do in fact comply with the rules found in the North Carolina Administrative Code 13B 1500. If they do, the division will provide a tax certificate listing the qualifying items. This tax certificate is sent to both the applicant and the county tax assessor. I want to be clear that this program does not provide a state-level tax benefit. What it does is it provides necessary documentation to support a local property tax exemption as allowed by statute. So as mentioned previously, applications are processed by the Division of Waste Management under the Solid Waste Rules 13B 1500. Some of you may be familiar with these rules already. However, our rules did recently go through a readoption process and some changes were made. So the new rules became effective on March 1st of this year, and these rules are available for download on our website. So if you are interested in applying for this program, I would highly encourage you to read through them. The rules cover definitions of terms in 1501. They cover the requirements for applying to the program in 1502, which is essentially laying out the information that you, the applicant, would need to provide to us. And then finally, they lay out the standards for actually qualifying for the tax certification in 1503. Again, I would highly encourage everyone interested to download and read these rules. I'm going to do my best to explain some important points to you today, but given that I only have about 15 minutes, it is going to be very difficult for me to capture every important point and all the nuances of the rules in this presentation. So that there really is no substitute for actually downloading and reading through these rules. So what qualifies? Again, these standards are laid out in 1503, and I would highly encourage you to go read it. But in essence, to qualify, the equipment, land, or facility space must be used exclusively for recycling and resource recovery, or for transportation or storage for recycling or resource recovery. What this means is that the asset is used in a process that is transforming solid waste that would otherwise end up in a landfill into a new material that can be used in a future production process or can be marketed for sale as a good. And exclusively here does mean exclusively. If the asset has any non-recycling use at all, it will not qualify, even if it is sometimes used for recycling. For example, say you take in bales of plastic waste for recycling, as shown in the center picture here, and this forklift does the unloading. If used for no other purpose, then the forklift may qualify for tax certification. However, if the forklift is also sometimes used for an activity unrelated to recycling, say you move it over to a warehouse and it is used to move boxes of office paper around, it would not qualify then because it is not being used exclusively for recycling. Other things that will not qualify under the rules include incidental and supporting space and equipment. This would be things that may support a recycling operation, but are not actually directly part of the recycling process itself. So there are some examples of what constitute incidental and supporting equipment and space in Rule 1501. These include office space and furniture, parking areas for employees, safety equipment, and any space or equipment used for maintenance purposes. In addition, any equipment used for handling a new material or production scrap would not qualify. And I'll go into those items in a little bit more detail on the next slide. So production scrap is defined in the rules as excess or unusable material created during a production process that is then returned to be used in that same process. Assets that handle production scrap do not qualify for tax certification under our rules. The rules in 1501 actually provide an example of what we mean by production scrap, and I have done my best here to illustrate the example found in the rules. In this example, a facility is making plastic sheets from pellets, then trimming the plastic sheet to make a product. The excess plastic from the trimmings is being collected, reground, and reintroduced back at the beginning of the process to make new sheets again. In this example, the equipment used in the grinding and reintroducing the excess plastic back into this process would not qualify for tax certification under the production scrap rule. Additionally, once a new material has been created, the recycling process is considered to be over. Any asset used to handle the new material would not qualify under our rules. Again, I have an example to illustrate this point. Say you have a facility that receives wood waste and grinds it into mulch for sale to customers. Under the rules, the assets used to receive the wood waste and then transform the wood waste into mulch may qualify for tax certification if used for no other purpose. However, once the mulch is created, the recycling process is deemed complete. Any asset used for handling the mulch itself, such as, say, a truck transporting it to a customer, would not qualify because it's handling that new material. Excuse me. So I'm going to switch gears and talk a little bit about how to apply if you are interested. Please remember that for this program, you will need to apply both to the Division of Waste Management and to the county tax assessor. I can't speak to the application requirements for the counties, so everything I'm going to go over here is specifically for applications to the Division of Waste Management. So the 3-page application document is available for download on our website. You can download it, fill it out completely, and email it to us. As of March 1st of this year, we do not accept mailed copies anymore, so please don't mail them. And I know it's confusing because in the directions on this form, it still says to mail them, but please don't, please email them. We're working on getting that changed. We do accept the applications continuously throughout the year. There is no deadline to submit them to the division. Again, though, there may be deadlines on the county side, so it is really important to check with them. So when filling out the form, please be sure to read it carefully and provide all the required information. On page 2, many applicants do seem to miss section D, which asks you to attach either a flow chart or a narrative that describe your production or your recycling process. Please be sure to include this when applying, as this application won't be able to be processed without it. Page 2 is also where you can list equipment for consideration. Please do not list buildings here or land space here. Those can be listed on page 3. And please be sure to fill out the line for each piece of equipment in its entirety. Of particular importance, each item should have a unique asset number, and the equipment should actually be labeled with this asset number. When our field staff go out to do facility inspections and look for equipment, they're going to look to see if whatever number you've put on this application matches what's on the equipment. So that's very important. Also, where we ask, in what way is this piece of equipment used for recycling or resource recovery? Please give us a specific answer to that. I receive many applications that just say generic things like used for recycling. That really is not useful to us, and I'll have to contact you, go back with you, and get you to resubmit with more specific descriptions if I see something like that. So looking at page 3 now, when listing building space or land, you must provide a drawing or map showing what areas on your property you are applying for. A lot of applications miss this, and again, we can't process the application without it. If you are not applying for any facility or land, then you don't need to worry about that. You don't need to put anything in those spaces, and you don't need to attach maps or drawings. Finally, the application needs to be signed in 3 places by the applicant, certifying that all the information in this form is correct and that there are no current or ongoing DEQ compliance actions against the applicant, as we will not be able to issue tax certification if there are any ongoing compliance issues. So once the application has been submitted to the division and it has been determined to be complete, it will enter our review process, which is depicted here. A common question I often get is, how long does the review take? We try to have reviews completed within 90 days of receipt of the completed application. However, we do not have any statutorily imposed deadlines. It's really more of an internal goal. So depending on what else is going on at the time, depending on how complex an application is, it could take longer, but our goal is 90 days. So generally, we receive anywhere from 150 to 200 applications in a given year. And as you can see, most of the applications we receive do end up getting a tax certification issued for at least some of the requested equipment. I do want to clarify some things that the division does not look at as part of our review process. Please remember that the division is only looking at whether the items listed in the application are used exclusively for recycling and resource recovery. The division does not certify or verify asset costs, and the division has nothing to do with determining changes in tax amount, tax savings, or anything to do with the taxes. The division also does not determine which years the exemption should apply to. The county tax assessor has jurisdiction over that. Also, the division does not audit your facility. We're not going to go through and look at everything and try and determine what else might qualify. When you submit an application to us and we go do the inspection, we are only going to look at and consider the items that are listed in the application. Finally, I want to end the presentation with some just answers to some commonly asked questions I get. First, tax certificates are not transferable. If the company you work for purchases another company and that company has a tax certificate, that does not transfer to you. You will need to reapply under the new ownership. You can apply for assets that are leased as well as those you own. That includes both equipment, land, and building space. However, the application process is a little bit different for leased equipment, a little bit more complicated. I don't have time to go into this today, but if you are interested in this, please call me and we can discuss this and I can help you move forward. Tax certificates for owned equipment do not expire unless there is a change in ownership of the equipment, the use of the equipment changes, or there are compliance issues. Tax certificates for leased equipments or leased assets will expire. They will expire on the date that their lease expires. Finally, as I've said before, the division will not know the answer to any questions related to tax savings. All tax questions should be directed to the county tax assessor. So that's it for me. I hope this has been informative. If you want to discuss this program further, if you have any questions for me, you can contact me using the information above. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Chris. And I believe we're sending the controls to Jim.
Yes, Jim, you should have the pop-up.
Righty. Right now, just give me a second here. I lost my screen here now. Show my screen. Can anybody see my screen or?
Yep, so you're in the edit mode, so you just need to put it on presentation mode. If you go down to the bottom, you can hit that thing that looks like the, yep,
There.
perfect.
There you go.
You're set. You just need
And
to.
you're,
I
you're
know I gotta go back pages. All right, there we go.
Perfect.
All right, my name is Jim Hafner. I'm with the Division of Air Quality. I'm in the Winston-Salem regional office, and I'm currently the acting permits coordinator. And basically, the tax certification for air quality is a little bit less complex than what Chris went over. So I'm going to give you some highlights on what we do with the tax certification program here. Basically, the basics for applying is that the equipment has to be constructed or installed, and the equipment has to comply with our EMC rules, which implies that they have to comply with our air permitting rules. Now, the one thing I want to say is that both a registered facility or exempt facility could also apply for tax certification because that is also under our EMC rules. And again, the equipment has to have the primary rather than incidental purpose of reduction of air pollution. And it has to be used exclusively for reduction of air pollution. And I can go over some examples of that later in my presentation. And other considerations are that equipment to be certified must always comply with air quality rules. And again, it has to be, the primary purpose has to be air pollution control, and the word exclusively means 100% of use, no margin of error. And I can go through some examples of that as well. Examples of equipment that could get tax certifications are like air pollution control devices, bag filters, thermal oxidizers, scrubbers, or in case you have a regenerative catalytic oxidizer, you can apply for the replacement of the catalyst. Other things are injection systems or cyclones if their primary purpose is a reduction of air pollution control. Now, like a cyclone that is used for material transfer probably would not be able to get tax certification. And the other thing is some places use water trucks to keep dust levels to a minimum. Those could be tax certified, except they have to be used exclusively for dust suppression. If they're used for anything else, then they would lose their tax certification. And we have, the forms can be found on our website under the links to permit. If you click on the permits link, it'll bring up well, it'll bring up the next screen under this link here. And tax certifications are right in the middle of the screen there. This has our application forms for tax certifications, and it has some additional information about tax certifications. And the form is similar to what Chris had too. Again, the instructions are that you have to complete and mail a signed copy to the tax administrator and to our office. Now, we require the tax certifications to be mailed currently. We prefer hard copies right now. Sometimes people will send email copies, but we right now really would like to have the tax certifications mailed in as well. And then it's responsible of the regional offices to verify the tax certification. And again, as Marcia said, that you have to submit one copy to us and one to the tax administrator. Applying to the DAQ will not get your property exempted. And if you have any questions on that, always call your regional DAQ office. The first page of the form is your basic information here. You know, the facility name, contact. You know, you have to put your facility ID number, which is assigned to your air permit that you have with us, if you have one. You know, the first form is basic information. The second form, this is page 2 of the form, and this is where you list the equipment that you want to be tax certified. Again, it asks for a description of the pollution control equipment. Also, there's a column for the original permit application date and current control device ID number. And it's important that you use the ID number on your air permit on this form, not whatever the facility uses to identify that control device. And it also has information for the asset number, and you have to describe how the equipment will be used for air pollution abatement. And the column for percent of use for pollution air abatement should always be 100%. Again, the word exclusively is noted here. And the other columns on this page for year acquired and the value, that's going to be more for the tax office than us. And page 3 of the form is for supportive equipment not listed on the current air permit. This is usually not that common. You likely will not fill out this form, but there are certain circumstances where you could use this form for, and I'll go over those as well. Additional items, you have to attach a process schematic with this tax certification showing what equipment you're certifying. And again, the description should match the control system description on your air permit. And then again, you're supposed to list as to why the equipment is qualified for tax exemption. And again, we do not certify the cost of the equipment or year of acquisition. That's the tax office. And typically, we don't go out and do site visits for tax certification purposes. We verify that equipment is installed through our permitting process and through our compliance inspections. It'd be very rarely that we would go to a facility to verify a tax certification application. Again, and then you can apply for tax certifications for buildings and land, but that the building or the portion of the building needs to be 100% for air pollution control. And that same goes for land too, that it must be used exclusively for prevention of air pollution. And this is very uncommon, and really the only way that you could get your land or building certified for tax certification if you put up a building that was exclusively used for air pollution control, like you had a whole building for a thermal oxidizer or a bag filter of that situation. And any land that was used for that portion of your property could be tax certifiable. We have some common issues when we see these tax certifications come in. One thing is sometimes the form is not signed by the authorized official. If that's the case, we usually send the form back to get the signature. Other items are sometimes people will submit these forms with a list, with an attachment listed with all the equipment on the attachment. And again, we like to see the equipment on page 2 of the form listed. And usually if we do find an attachment to a tax certification, we'll send it back to get the application form filled out. And some of the things that we've seen that we've denied for tax certification was an application form that was submitted for equipment for wastewater treatment plants, for a wastewater treatment plant and all the incidental equipment used for that. Again, a wastewater treatment plant is not used for pollution control. So we're going to have to deny that certification. And we also one time got an application in for some internal floating roofs on a storage tank. And when we went back and asked, how does this control air pollution, they came back and said that the primary purpose of putting in the internal floating roof tanks were for fire protection. Again, that's not exclusively used for pollution control or air pollution control, so we had to deny that. And for the Winston-Salem office, for processing these tax applications, usually it's the assigned facility inspector that processes them. And we either approve or disapprove the equipment listed on page 2 or 3 of the form. And again, we'll send a letter to the facility contact and the tax assessor with copies of the completed application form. And it's not common, but sometimes the tax assessor will call us and give us additional information. Now, the one thing I want to point out is that other regional offices may process these tax certifications in a different method. They may have one person that processes these, or may just use permit engineers to process these. But in our office, we actually assign the facility inspector to these, and the inspector should know if the equipment has been installed and is in compliance with our air permit rules. And typically, you know, we have 90 days to process these, and typically it takes less than that. I think internally we're looking at maybe 45 days at the most to process these tax certifications. And again, like I said, our regional offices are the ones that process these tax certifications. So if you do want to apply for a tax certification, submit these to your regional offices. And basically, I think that's all I have for tax certifications for air permitting. And if you have any questions, please call me or reach out to your regional offices. Thank you.
All right. And as we're speaking, Emily should be getting the controls, and we'll hear about Division of Water Quality. Oh gosh, water resources.
All right, that's me.
We
All
can.
right, so my name is Emily Richards, and I work with the Division of Water Quality in the Compliance and Expedited Permitting Unit. Generally, I will be your sole point of contact for any application to submit a tax certification for water pollution abatement. All right, so our program is pretty similar to the programs that Jim and Chris just walked through. I'm just gonna walk you through who can apply, type of equipment qualifies. We're gonna take a look at our application and see it's actually pretty similar to the other two as well, just a couple of little differences here and there, and then what our process looks like on our side of things. So who can apply? Anyone with the North Carolina Division of Water Resources NPDES permit can apply. NPDES stands for National Ocean Discharge Elimination System. Generally, there will be permits that discharge from a point source, like an end of pipe, into a stream. These can also be non-discharge permits. So discharge permits generally start with the letters NC00, or if general permit, it's NCG, and then your permit number. Non-discharge permits, rather than discharging into a stream, generally have more to do with soil absorption of treated waste, irrigation or spray field, and those permits start with WQ00 and then your permit number. And the third type of permit that's going to fall under this NPDES umbrella is if you have what's called a significant industrial user permit, which is issued by a local municipal wastewater treatment plant. So rather than owning one of these NC00 permits yourself or one of these WQ00 permits yourself, you're issued an SIU permit by a municipality that actually owns the NPDES permit for you. So for example, recently I received an application from New Belgium Brewing, and they hold a significant industrial user permit. And you can see the permit number looks a little different than NC00 numbers, S075019, and that was issued by the Buncombe Metropolitan Sewerage District under their NPDES permit, which has that NC00 number. So that allows New Belgium Brewing to apply through that NPDES permit. Just make sure if you do have one of those SIU permits you're applying, include your SIU permit number and your NPDES permit number. So those are the three types of permits that are going to, have successful applications. One type of permit that I see come up a lot on application that does not qualify is going to be stormwater permits. So stormwater permits are actually governed by DEMLR, the Department of Mineral and Resources. They're not related to the Division of Water Resources, even though it seems like that might be something that has to do with water pollution abatement. Is not something that qualifies under our tax certification for water pollution abatement program. All right, and as far as what is eligible for certification, this again is going to be very similar to the air quality and waste management programs. I've taken a little bit of a different approach here, really zoomed out, and I'm going to talk you through a little bit of the principles of taxation that apply to this program. So I think it was Chris that mentioned that these rules are related to real and personal property only. Essentially, that just means things are taxable. So real property is things that are permanently fixed, just land and buildings, and personal property would be things that are movable without injury to the property, such as equipment and vehicles. And the costs of these things are assessed a little differently. So with real property, the costs are very straightforward. Generally have a price per square foot for land or buildings. However, personal property, when you're applying to certify any equipment, can also include the total cost involved to get a piece of equipment operational. So when you're applying to certify, say you're installing a new aeration basin, the equipment itself might cost $600,000, but then you also have installation costs, freight, grading of the land, the equipment, engineering costs, and all of that would factor into the total cost of the piece of equipment. So you could actually list that cost as the total of all of those would be $667,000 in this case. Now, like Jim mentioned, the Division of Water Resources doesn't actually allow and certify the cost of the equipment. We just say that the equipment is there, it's functional, it's used for water pollution abatement. Any verification of cost of the equipment will happen on the side of the tax assessor for your county. As far as what property is eligible for tax certification under this program, again, I think we've beat you over the head with this a little bit, but it must be used exclusively for water pollution abatement 100% of the time. It has to be its primary purpose, not its incidental purpose. And I also have a little example here for you that applies to the water quality program. So let's say a facility has a non-discharge permit that requires treated water to be applied to a land application site, and then a hay baler is needed to remove that crop annually. That hay baler would qualify for tax certification if it's used exclusively in that land application field. However, if there are adjacent fields that are used for commercial crops that are not related to the wastewater treatment permit, then that hay baler would not qualify. It was used in those additional fields. Does my building qualify is a common question we get. The answer is probably not. I would say it's pretty uncommon, at least in the water pollution abatement program, to have buildings that qualify. I think Jim and Chris both mentioned this as well, that the entire building would have to be used exclusively for that purpose, which is water pollution abatement, or a removable section of the building. So I've included this little figure here. You can see in figure 1, there's a section of the building that's strictly dedicated to pollution abatement. If you have a situation like that, that section of the building could be certified. However, in figure 2, this section inside little box with the X, if your equipment is housed in that way, you can't remove that section of the building without harming the building. So that section would not qualify. So it has to be either your entire building or a removable section of it. And then I just wanted to show you guys what our applications look like. Again, pretty similar to the other 2 programs. As long as you read, as long as you read this application carefully and follow the instructions, you should not have any issue getting your equipment certified. Right up top in the directions, it notes that you need to send a copy of this both to the Division of Water Resources and also to your county tax administrator for the county in which the facility is located. Then underneath that, you'll see this section that says, please note. This lists all of the necessary things, all of the necessary qualifications your equipment needs to meet in order to certify. So has been or will be constructed, complies with your permit, is being effectively operated, has or when completed will have as its primary purpose the reduction of water pollution, and is being used exclusively to that end. So everything you need to know about tax certification is right here in this application. I'm just going to include the name of the applicant, the name of the facility, the address of that facility. Very importantly, you're going to need to include the county where the property is located so that I know which county tax assessor to coordinate with. And then you'll see this section down here asks whether the applicant has any Division of Water Resource permits. I would say this is the part that has me returning the most applications. You'll see here this applicant is Purdue Foods. Obviously, they have a lot of permits. However, the county where they're applying is Northampton, and they've included permits for Bertie County and Hertford County. So they did not include in this application any permits related to their Northampton County facility. This could this could result in a return application. In this case, I was able to reach out to the applicant and figure out that they actually have a significant industrial user permit for a wastewater treatment plant in Northampton County. So they were able to have this application move along, but it makes the whole process a lot more smoothly if you only include the DWQ permit relevant to the equipment that you're applying to certify. And then again, you've seen this page a few times now. Just make sure that you list all your equipment on this page. It's very important that it's listed on this page, that this page is a page that's signed, that you fill out all the information completely, and that all of the equipment you list is used 100% of the time for water pollution abatement, as is indicated in this column. As far as the process goes, the tax certification application comes to me first. I work in the central office, so I'll review the application to make sure that all the information is complete, that you have a valid permit, that your facility complies with its permit. So I'll pull up your compliance history. If there's an abundance of violations or enforcement or anything that indicates your facility has issues operating in compliance with the permit, then the application will likely be returned. And I also do a pre-cursory look at the equipment that you've listed to make sure that, from my point of view, it qualifies. Then once that review is completed, I'll fill out an inspection form and send it to the relevant regional office. The regional office inspector will then come to your facility, look at your equipment to make sure that it is properly installed or will be installed. And then they also verify that that equipment is used exclusively for water pollution abatement 100% of the time. There are some things that I can't see from where I'm sitting that they might see out on the ground. So they complete that inspection, and they return that form to me. Then go ahead and as long as everything has checked out, I'll draft up a tax certification document for you. And then I will pass that along to both you and the relevant county tax administrator. Generally, this process takes, everything runs smoothly, maybe only 2 months. There are a lot of limiting steps, though. I am the only person in the central office that reviews these applications. Sometimes that can hold up the process if we have a flood of applications all at once. Another limiting step is the regional offices occasionally can get clogged with inspections, and then these also have to be reviewed by somebody delegated by a director to review them after I complete my review. So there are a lot of limiting steps here. These can take up to 6 months, I would say. And during COVID, we had a lot of slowdown with the inspections because our inspectors weren't able to go out to facilities. So we're still working through that backlog a bit. The most common reasons for returned applications, the number one reason absolutely is not including a valid permit number. Whether you've included a permit that expired in 2004, a permit that's a stormwater permit. Occasionally I get some for air quality, but they're filled out on the quality applications. So just make sure that if you're applying for a water pollution abatement tax certification, that your permit starts with an NC00, an NCG, a WQ, or if you're an SIU of a municipal wastewater treatment plant. Another reason I return a lot of applications is because the equipment listed is not associated with an NPDES permit. So even though the facility has a permit that qualifies, the equipment isn't really related to that permit at all. For example, I got one where they listed a septic tank that was related to an old county septic permit that had nothing to do with their NPDES permit. So that would result in a returned application. Not including the process schematic for your facility. That application in bold at the bottom says include a process schematic, where I can see where each of the pieces of equipment that you're attempting to certify are on that process schematic. That way I can see easily how those pieces of equipment contribute to water pollution abatement, and the inspector has an easier time finding them. It just makes the whole process run a lot smoother, and it's a requirement. And finally, just the facility being in compliance with the permit. Again, if you have a lot of violations or enforcements, I would wait maybe a year or two to apply and just put a lot of effort into compliance before you apply, because non-compliance will definitely result in a returned application. So that's really it for me. You know, as long as you read through the application carefully, and just include things that are relevant, include a valid permit number, you'd be able to get your tax certification. I'd say right now I'm probably returning about 40 or 50% of the applications that come in just because they don't have a valid permit number associated with them. I've included the contacts for all of us here. I would recommend anytime you apply, just shoot us an email. Also, if it's been 6 months and you haven't heard back from me, please shoot me an email and follow up. Sometimes it can get lost in the shuffle, or maybe, you know, mailed out to you and it hasn't reached you for some reason. So please contact me if you have any questions. If you're applying and you just want to follow up on your application, or for any other reason, feel free to reach out. And that's it for me.
Perfect.
Thank you.
And we do not have any questions at this time that I can see. But I did want to poll the audience and see if you do already hold a tax certification for one of the 3 programs. Please raise your hand so we can see that. So I'm only seeing 1 hand raised at this point. Okay. All right. Jennifer, if you'll put your hand down. How many people are going to think about applying for tax certification based on the presentation? If you'll raise your hand. Okay. So I've got 3 hands raised. Okay. So it was useful. Great. Okay. All right. So next up, Lisa, I think is you. But I'm not seeing Jessica.
10:26.
Yep. So we got a couple minutes.
So we've been holding each presentation until the actual time on their agenda. So we'll start back up with Eaton's presentation on sustainable packaging at 10:30.
All right. Thank you, Chris, Jim, and Emily. That was great information.
Thank you. It was great to be with everyone today.
Hey, Jessica, I'm going to send you the presenter so you can be ready.
Okay.
There you go. You should have the pop-up now. Looks like I'm seeing Excel, your save as screen. You can close it. All right, so now we're seeing your presentation, but we're seeing the speaker's notes. And you're muted, by the way, so I'm not hearing you.
Are you able to see them now without the
Yes, yeah.
notes? Okay. All right.
We'll give it just one more minute. So 10:30. Oh, actually, my computer's wrong. My computer's behind. I have 10:31. So we'll go ahead and get started. Next, we'll be hearing from Jessica Keith on the sustainable packaging project that she has been implementing at Eaton. Jessica is the Environmental Health and Safety Manager for the Raleigh and Capital Plant Operations for Eaton. She's been in the EHS field for nearly 10 years and has been in Eaton since 2019. At Eaton Raleigh, they produce three-phase uninterruptible power supply systems. Thank you, Jessica, for being here.
Sure. No, thank y'all for having me. So one of the biggest challenges that we've been faced with at Eaton is pallets. And so we have started to use returnable carts. And I'm trying to advance the slide and it's not going. Here we go. All right, so with, converting over to returnable carts, one of the drivers that has, pushed us forward for that has been the difficulty with getting rid and recycling our pallets. So just at one plant, we average about 75 pallets a day that need to be gotten rid of, recycled, reused. Some we just can't use them anymore. So we were using 40-yard pallet dumpsters. We could fit about 60 pallets in there as long as we really worked on how we manipulated them into the dumpster. And we were doing 6 pallet dumpster pickups a week. And this was just at one of the sites. Well, we have 3 sites here in the Raleigh area. 2 right along Capitol Boulevard, and then we have a 3rd in Youngsville. We all collect around the same amount of pallets. We were spending around $80,000 a year on disposing of the pallets or recycling the pallets through our waste provider. It's a lot of money. So there's the 3 of us here in the Raleigh area, but there's lots of other Eaton plants within North Carolina. So just imagine, you know, we're spending around $240,000 annually just between the 3 of us. Add the 7 or 8 other Eaton plants around North Carolina. There's no telling how much money was, you know, essentially just being put into and thrown away for pallets. So, some other difficulties with the recycling. You know, when those dumpsters get full, the pallets pile up. So if for some reason towards the end of the month we get a lot of shipments in, or there's some type of delay with the waste provider picking up our waste, there's just not enough space in the plant to hold the pallets. You know, space is of a lot of value, and we've designed the lines and the receiving and shipping areas to not include too much space that, you know, is potentially to store pallets. This also adds trip hazards, and it blocks loading docks. We've tried to utilize trailers being parked at docks, but we ran into quite a few difficulties with that. One being some of our plants don't have as many open docks, and because of that, we're blocking a dock, essentially just to park a trailer there that, you know, gets pulled away every few days, every week or so, and it's not making us any money, essentially, is what it comes down to. And then the other issue, you know, the pallets were they were just, if the trailer was getting full, then we would have to once again bring them inside the plant. More recently, everyone knows that, you know, wood costs have gone up. That we've been hit with this over the past couple of years, not just this year, but when the cost of wood skyrockets, you know, our vendors start requesting that we return the pallets to them. Well, how can we do that if we don't have room? A couple things that we've ran into with, you know, returning pallets to the vendors were, where would we store them until they came for their next delivery? And sometimes they only deliver once a week, every 2 weeks. But then the other issue was these vendors, oftentimes we weren't the only stops for them. So, you know, we might have been their first stop for the day. They loaded their truck that way. So they didn't want to go and put the pallets in the back of their truck and then at their next stop have to take the pallets back out. Another thing that really drove us towards returnable carts was recordable injuries. You know, we saw a couple recordables over the past couple of years with, you know, employees having to pick large parts up off of pallets, and they ranged from, you know, shoulder injuries to even, you know, putting their hands in the line of fire and pinching their hands when they were rotating from the horizontal to the vertical position. As you can see in the picture, there's 2 examples of large parts, one being a divider and one being a side skin or the outside shell of one of the units. And they would pick those up and then rotate them and then either install it on the pallet or install it on the unit. So this was another driver that we looked at. So some of the benefits of returnable carts, you know, of course, the obvious, you know, the less pallets that we have, the less money that's spent on the pallet waste. As you can see, we have quite a few returnable carts, lots of different parts that it's all sheet metal that we're currently using returnable carts for. We have, you know, a lot of plans in the future to go to returnable bins and crates. And those have been in the works for a while, and I'll get into some of the roadblocks that we see with returnable carts. But yes, storage is also an issue with the returnable carts. We have really taken a lot of time to evaluate the storage and the space that's needed for these returnable carts. We've also determined how many carts we need for each part number. And that's taken a while. So initially we kind of thought, oh, you know, maybe 2 carts per part number, you know, 1 cart for to stay at the plant with the parts and then 1 part back at the supplier. Well, as you can see, the carts are, you know, they're not huge and they don't hold but so many parts. So we had to, you know, determine how many parts we were going through, how long it takes, what's the lead time to get the parts, things such as that. So some part numbers have more than 2 carts. There's our biggest runners, there are 6 carts for those. And this applies to all of our plants across our Raleigh sites. We have, you know, certain vendors in particular that utilize these carts. They help design them. If something happens to them and they are damaged in any way, then they help us get those repaired. And we actually have ran into that with some carts getting damaged, you know, various things. You know, the casters may eventually come off, or and the reason for that was when they were unloading it from the trailer, they use a forklift. So the forklift slides right underneath the cart, picks it up and brings it out just for a speedier process. And so one of the casters was damaged that way. Another, we actually, when the driver pulled away from the dock, they had forgotten to, 1, secure the load, so secure the cart, and then 2, they didn't shut the door. And so when they pulled away, the cart rolled out and fell off the truck, so it was damaged. So, you know, it has its challenges, but as you can see, we've worked through that, and so there's one benefit. Another is we are now able to self-certify that we don't have any materials outside our operations that are exposed to stormwater. So we don't have these large dumpsters filled with pallets. We also have improved our line side organization. So as you can see, we still have a lot of work to be done. We still have a lot of carts to be added, and it takes time, but you can see how it cleans up the area, makes it look a lot more presentable. As you can see, so a lot of the parts have that brown paper around them. Well, these are pieces of sheet metal that's been powder coated, and the paper's put on there to prevent scratches. And so once we put them into the carts, the amount that we have to return to be repainted was reduced significantly. And we've seen a decrease also, you know, in waste, because we don't have all of those side panels or parts wrapped in that paper. Another benefit to the returnable carts is, of course, reduced ergonomic risks. So as you can see, and as you had seen in other pictures, you know, you go from having the parts on a pallet horizontally to them already being vertically in the carts. It's easier on the employee, so when they're horizontal, the employee has to rotate the part into a vertical position, and this sometimes has to be done manually, but in general it's done using a crane. And so when it was done using a crane, there was the concerns with putting themselves in the line of fire. You know, if something was to slip, the pinch points, all of those concerns. So by putting it into these returnable carts, they can easily slide the part out with and hook up to the crane and move it over to the pallets. Some roadblocks. So of course, you know, there are difficulties with implementing the returnable carts. So each part, you know, has various sizes, has little, you know, hooks that may hang out or a bracket that's on it. So the same cart design does not work for every single part. Initially, when we started this, we, you know, had one cart design, and, you know, we thought, oh, this should work for all the parts, but in reality, it doesn't. And so we've had to make modifications. Some modifications, you know, are not as difficult as others. You know, as simple as adding the foam to the cart, or putting a piece of rubber down at the bottom in the tray to prevent scratches on the bottom of the panels. We've also increased the size of the dividers. So this shows you there's some PVC on the dividers. We had to increase that because the ones that are inside were actually too small, and so the parts were shifting quite a bit. But you know, we've worked through that. It's been trial and error, but it's really benefited the plant. Some other difficulties we've seen since introducing, of course, has been cost. You know, the cost of the carts originally was about $1,750, and they've recently gone up to about $2,500, and that's just, you know, due to things going on and the economy and the cost of metal. We do have over 50 different parts that returnable carts need to be utilized with. As I had mentioned earlier, you know, we need at least 2 carts, and it's really based on the part for how many carts we'll need. Initially, when we first started this and we are working down the list, we ranked the parts based on, you know, how much they're used, the lead time, and then also the ergonomic risk. So it was a team effort. Besides, you know, EHS involved, finance being involved, we also had to include, you know, the manufacturer and engineers in this, and as well as supply chain. And so the highest ranking carts, the highest ranking parts based on the use, lead time, and ergonomic risk were the first ones to receive the returnable carts. And then annually, we just work down the list and purchase additional carts. Now, of course, you know, things change based on sales. So sometimes it's one of those guessing games that we have to just say, okay, well, we're projected to sell, you know, this many of this unit, so we know this many parts will be used. So sometimes we have to change our rankings. We about every 6 months we look at our ranking system and determine whether or not we think it's good, whether we're still on track. Or if we need to think about moving some around and putting some higher and get carts designed for those. When we bring in new product lines, same thing. we have to, you know, think through the process, think through how things are being brought in. And, you know, there's a lot of times when you bring in new product lines, you don't realize some of the issues that may come along with the new parts that are involved. So, yeah, we think through it prior to them coming here. We work with prototype to try to ensure that the carts that are being designed for those new parts will be effective. But, you know, things change between prototype and when you start building it here in the plant. And so we run into that sometimes as well. But yep, so usually about every, each year we purchase anywhere from 10 to about 25 carts. We try to do a few, you know, bulk at a time because we have, you know, specifics for each cart. We, you know, buy that certain design in bulk for that month or two. But so that is returnable carts at Eaton. Are there any questions?
I'm not seeing any questions at the moment, Jessica.
Okay.
All right. We'll give folks just a second if they want to type something in. But it's a really great project you've got going there. Thank you for sharing it with us.
Yes, thank y'all.
All right, so I'm still not seeing any questions. So what we're going to do is pause for about 10 minutes and come back at 11, and I'll give you a quick update on ESI and we'll wrap up the conference. So thank you so much, Jessica, and to all of our speakers who might still be on the line. Did something pop in?
Looks like we have a question pop in. Let's
Okay.
see. Is the cart design specific for Eaton specific carts, or all right, is the cart design specific for Eaton specific carts, or can it be used more broadly?
So the carts that we have, we worked with our parts manufacturers or our sheet metal distributors to create the carts for us. So it's not something that we just went and bought from Granger or Valen. These were specific to our parts.
Right, and there was a correction. They meant to say Eaton specific parts, not carts.
Yeah, so it's one of those things. So the parts that we have, you know, you see they're just pretty much large pieces of sheet metal that's been cut or molded and powder coated. So the vendor could easily use that for other parts. And, you know, ours have what plant they go to and the part number spray painted on it. So that's how we ensure that we get those back. But yes, it could easily be used in other industries if they have a part similar in size.
Great. I don't see any additional questions.
All right. Well, again, thank you so much. And we will pause until 11 o'clock and Marcia and I will wrap things up. Thank you, Jessica.
Thank y'all.
Oops. All right, it is 11 o'clock, so welcome back, everybody. For those that don't know me, I'm Angela Barger, and I manage the ESI program. I've been with DEQ for about 21 years, and with this program for 16, I think now. And, you know, like all of you, this has been, you know, a crazy couple of years, but we were really excited to be able to start getting back out into the field and seeing a couple of our member sites over the summer when the rates went down a little bit. We hope they will continue on their current progress of moving in the right direction so that we can get out and see more of you this coming year. So just so you know, most of us here in the Raleigh area are still teleworking, but we are in the office at least 2 days a week. We can come in more if we choose to, but at the moment, our upper management is still allowing us to work from home most of the time. So the fastest way to get hold of us is still going to be to shoot us an email, and we can always arrange to have a Teams meeting or a phone call or even to come out to your site. We are able to perform site visits now, or we can do a virtual visit depending on the comfort level and member safety concerns. So just for those of you who have been missing us as much as we've been missing you and you want to see our pretty faces, then let us know. We're happy to arrange to come out and meet with you. Most of our networking and training content remains virtual for now, including our training and other events that we've been doing, and I'll talk a little bit more about those in a minute. And just so you know, we are still down 2 folks. So 2 of our coaches over the summer took other opportunities, and so those 2 positions are still open. They are currently in the process of filling at least one of those, and I think one of them is going to be reposted soon. So those, as they get filled, we'll have a little bit more capacity for moving some of our other projects along. Some of our upcoming events that you might be interested in. So we have probably 10 folks that are currently taking part in our environmental management system modules. This is our ISO 14001 module series. It's got 6 modules that are a part of it, and it kind of goes in depth on ISO 14001. And it was originally created to help those folks that are putting a system into place to get the information they need to have that system, at least the skeleton of one, done in a year. But what we've noticed is over the past, I don't know, 5 or 6 years, most of the folks that are taking this class are new employees at facilities that already have ISO systems. And so they're joining us to learn more about the system, to get a little bit more in-depth information on the EMS at their own site. So instead of creating materials, they're going and reviewing the materials that they already have and finding ways to actually improve those. And to improve their ability to contribute to their EMS. So it's been really great to hear some of those learnings from folks that already have systems and things that they can do to make them better. So keep that in mind when we start these. Again, we do this module series every year. It typically starts in July. You don't have to take the full series. If you're just interested in one topic or another, you can always register for, you know, pick and choose which modules you're interested in doing. And to that, our module 6, which is also our standalone internal auditor, is very popular. So for our members that are interested in hosting or even participating in an internal auditor class, we hold that probably twice a year at the minimum. We do still plan to have that one December 9th in person if possible. We'll see where the numbers are at that point. Right now, we do have one of our members who has volunteered to host us, and again, it will depend on, you know, where we sit at that point if that goes through and does not become a virtual visit. If it becomes virtual, that's fine too. We've done that a couple of times. It's just a little more difficult to get out there and do that mock audit that we do in the afternoon. Just so you're aware, we do have our advisory board meeting coming up on November 3rd. They'll be reviewing 2 applications for rising stewards to move up in the program, and then we also have a couple of renewals to look at. But if you have other potential program changes you'd be interested in seeing, things that you'd like for us to consider, you can always email us and let us know. And then if it's necessary, we can bring those to our advisory board as well. We also have an environmental benchmarking session that's scheduled. I mentioned this on Monday when we were talking, but just in case you weren't with us then, it's going to be on November 16th at Smithfield Foods, and it's going to be about their water reductions at the bacon plant. Again, this is going to be completely virtual, so webinar format, just like pretty much everything's been for the past 2 years. But in order to find that, and this is not just for our members, it can be for our members or anyone who's interested in learning more about this. So our networking events are always open to anyone who's interested. So for those of you who aren't members and not on our marketing list, you can find upcoming events on our website. For the events that are virtual, recordings from past year can also be found here. So what you'll do is you'll go to our website, which is ncesi.org, and you'll click a green button that says events page, or just ESI events or something like that. And it will bring you to this page that you see on the screen. And you can see we've broken down our various events into these 6 categories. So under each one of these, anything that we've done in the past couple of years is that we actually recorded are posted underneath each of these buttons, as well as registrations for anything that's upcoming. So this includes our hazardous materials roundtables. We have 3 events posted there, including a couple on the lithium ion batteries that was done in cooperation with our energy series. So those links are in both places. Also under the energy management series, we did an overview of ISO 50001 that you might be interested in checking out if you missed it when we did it live. We had several sessions of our ISO 14001 overview class, and we posted one of those in the EMS training section. And we're also currently in the middle of our module series, as I just mentioned. Those won't get posted, but we are holding them virtually for the first time. So we're hoping that future classes will be offered in a hybrid format. So those that want to attend in person can, and those that can't travel or just prefer the online format will have that option as well. Our environmental benchmarking series got it back up and running again this year. Last year we had put it on pause because of COVID and the fact that that had always been an in-person event so that we could incorporate site visits and benchmarking it live and in person. But this year we started back doing these virtually with a session from Sierra Nevada. That's posted under the ESI networking session, and that's also where you'll find the link to register for Smithfield's upcoming event in November. And for those of you that are members and on our marketing list, you'll be seeing the links come to your email soon. And we also held an ESI Advancement Webinar, and that was recorded and posted in the other ESI events section. So if you're interested in moving up to the rising steward or steward level, you can check that out. The recording is there, and if you have any questions, you can reach out to me or any of our coaches or Don. We're happy to answer any questions on that. Here under the ESI events, which was that first button on the last page, you'll see that all of the things, the presentations and the recordings and the agenda and any handouts, all of that information is going to be posted under here. So it probably is going to be next week before we get these this week's sessions up, just because behind the scenes, you may have heard us mention this already, we are doing some website merging. They're changing over to a new format, and so well, not a new piece of software, but a new version of that software. Anyway, so right now we have a couple of different ones, and they're trying to limit the amount of material that they have to post to both of those sites So hopefully we can get those up next week. We'll send everybody who registered a link as soon as they're up, so you can go and pull any of the information that you wanted to review again, or that you missed and you want to catch up on. It's been a busy year for the ESI team. In addition to continuing to create content on our virtual platforms, we also received our annual reports and have been processing that data. A lot of our members needed extensions, and we unfortunately lost a few due to staffing changes at facilities and just, COVID-related issues with staffing and that kind of thing. So we had several requests for a one-year hold in order to give them time to let things settle down. And we were sad to see a couple of closures as well. But even with these challenges, we saw great results for calendar year 2020. You can see those on the slide now. And we know that these challenges will continue to make reaching your environmental goals a little more difficult. So I just want to once again reassure you that setting goals and working toward them doesn't always show reductions in the way you intended them to, and we understand that, and it's okay. In times like these, sometimes holding the line is the best we can do. So don't be discouraged. We are here to help, even if it's just to bounce ideas off of us. Reach out to us, reach out to your coaches. If you don't know who your coach is, or if your coach happens to be one of the ones that recently left us, you can reach out to me or Dawn. And then on a positive note, we were very pleased with the results that you all achieved last year despite these challenges. We have also continued to see an increase in our member applications, and I'll talk about those on the next slide. So since January of this year, we've received 7 more partner applications. We've approved 1 steward to move up from the rising steward level, and we have 2 rising steward applications that were going to be reviewed in the November advisory board meeting that I already mentioned. So, a lot of you are taking advantage of a little bit of the downtime when we had fewer people in the office and all of that to get those applications in, and we're really appreciative of that. If you know of other folks that might be interested in our program, want to learn more, please reach out to us. Send them links to our website, send them our one-pager, just connect them via email with us. We're happy to talk to them. We really feel like we're the best kept secret in state government, so we'd love to assist more folks. For those of you who were with us yesterday, we had 3 awesome interns this past summer, and I hope you had a chance to hear their presentations that we had recorded during their last week with us. Since they're all students at NC State, we had to snap a pic of them with the red wolf pups when we went to the zoo with them. These 3 not only helped us with several projects, they taught us some new skills too. So if you missed their presentation, Bethany created the design and worked on our long promised office toolkit. Caleb's job was working with our new energy toolkit, including the tools we'll need to manage that equipment. More on those tools in a minute. And Tim helped us update some of our training materials for the EMS modules. So we hope to have a couple more interns next summer. So if you know a college student that might be interested, let us know. Again, we're all undergraduate, so it doesn't necessarily have to be graduate level interns that we're working with. So these 3 did a great job for us, and we're very, very pleased with what they achieved. Oops. And as I mentioned, one of our interns spent the summer working with our new energy toolkit. And as we come back up to full staff, this equipment and more will be available for loan to our members. Look for more information on that in the coming months. And please let us know if you're interested in borrowing any of our tools to help you understand your energy use. We have a variety of tools that are coming in. Some are already here. Most of them are already here. We're still waiting for a couple. But we have a leak detection for compressed air. We have kilowatt meters that you can use to plug in like office equipment, not anything higher than your normal service like you would have at your house or in your office. But basically you plug these into the wall and then you plug your device, whether that's a computer or whether that's a drink machine or something like that, into it, and it'll register what those are. We have infrared thermometer. We have various things that'll help you figure out energy across the line. And like I said, you'll get more information on that over the coming months once we come back up to full speed and have somebody who can focus specifically on our energy toolkit. So that's all I've got as far as updates. We're looking forward to another exciting year, coming back up to speed with everybody. We really want to get out and see more of you. So we hope to do more of that. If you're interested in having us come out and visit with you, talk about your goals, you know, talk about the program with someone that you're bringing on staff, we are happy to do that. So thank you all for your attention and for your continued participation and all of your improvement efforts. We really greatly appreciate it, and we really appreciate you being able to share with others so that we can help North Carolina to improve their environmental footprint overall. I mean, that's truly the goal that we have.
And Angela, there is a question.
Sure.
Regarding our ISO training. I was wondering if more companies are integrating ISO 14001 and the ISO 45001 safety management systems. If so, is there an opportunity for ESI to offer integrated systems training?
So yes to the first part of that question. So the ISO 45001 is what some people knew as OSAS 18000. So that was on the occupational health and safety side. And we don't really have the expertise in the safety security piece that would be required for 45001. So probably not a whole lot of integration there unless we were to partner with NC State, which is a possibility. Their industry expansion solutions, they keep changing their name, so I have to remember what it is. Folks have helped us out in the past with some of the other ISO standards that are not in our specific lane. So we could potentially reach out to them and create something. So that's a great idea. We have, as I mentioned, started trying to integrate more of the 50001, which is the energy management system, because that does fall into the environmental world. So we'll probably be doing more of that. And we're also thinking about looking at the life cycle guidance that comes out from ISO. And we may be looking at doing something with that next year. So we are looking to do a little bit more of those integration pieces. It's just that OSAS kind of falls just outside our realm. So, but thanks for the question.
Yeah,
We had
and
another. Go ahead, Marsha.
sorry, I was just going to say we can send a blast out on the listserv to find out who is doing that and make connections if that's something that you're interested in. And
Yeah.
we will definitely pursue whether we can coordinate with IES.
Yeah, for sure. And just, you know, anecdotally, lots of our members have both the 45001 or its predecessor, the 18000, as well as 14,000, and a lot more are starting to come into the 50,000 world too. So we are seeing a lot of that.
And we had a thank you from Tina Benton, our EPA Region 4 project manager. She said, "Thank you for these updates, and I love the dog pics." So, and I told Tina, "Thank you for your support. Y'all been great."
These are my at-home coworkers. So the black one there is Annie, and she has stolen DOG's bed, and DOG thinks he's the prince and the pea, laying on top of all of those I had stacked up to sweep around. So thank you. They're my babies. Any other questions?
I don't see any.
All righty. Well, thank you all so much for attending and sharing with each other this week. We really appreciate it. We hope next year to be back in person. We know everybody's getting a little bit of fatigue with all of these webinars. That's kind of why we try and break this up so that you can pop in for just the sessions that you're interested in. So our division director, Jamie Reagan, had planned to join us to close out the conference, but unfortunately there were some other high priority issues that she needed to take care of this morning. So she sends her regards and hopes to see more of our members in person soon. So Marcia, I'm going to turn it over to you for any last thoughts and to close it out.
All right, thank you, Angela. I just wanted to follow up on two things Angela said. One of those things that Jamie got pulled away for is our return to work date 5 days a week here with the state is set right now as October 15th. We take our marching orders from the State Office of Human Resources. So there's discussions going on about whether we will be back in the office 5 days a week in just a little bit, or whether we're going to continue with those at least 2 days in the week. So just let you know, yes, definitely still keep reaching out via email as we figure out how we're transitioning back to work. And the other thing I wanted to mention, and thank you to EPA for the support that they give us through our Region 4 Pollution Prevention Grant. We're going to have an opportunity once we get staffed up, and they'll need some ISO 14001 lead auditor training. So that's something that we'd like to offer to our members if that's of interest to you. I know I mentioned in one of the other sessions, but I wanted to mention it again. Please reach out to us if that's something that you'd like to explore with us. So I would just like to thank all of our speakers again that accepted the invitation to share your knowledge, skills, and your time with us this week. Anyone that has presented knows there's a lot of effort that goes into developing a presentation, especially this year with the mental strain and just trying to get your everyday work done. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Speaking of which, I want to also highlight the efforts of Angela and Dawn. Without them, this would not have been a successful conference. As I helped them to develop the conference agenda and secure speakers at times, I know we all felt the challenge of the pandemic and resulting from, I think this is our second year of doing things a little differently, and the challenge of always being on and being ready and being on those videos and doing that with all the other challenges you have personally. This was especially true as they worked. We had our virtual Stewart Forum last week that went off without a hitch, especially since I had to step away due to an urgent family emergency. So they have put in many hours ensuring we were prepared, from developing the notes the moderators used to making sure we could play the videos that some of our speakers wanted to share, updating our panelists and handouts for each session, practicing with all of our speakers in the GoToWebinar platform, organizing the survey results that we get, and ensuring that everyone has the info once we finish. So thank you, Angela and Dawn. Lastly, I wanted to thank each of you for attending and participating during the week. As we were discussing with some of our other Region 4 pollution prevention providers, and Angela mentioned, virtual fatigue. So we're thinking about that as we come up with next year's programming, maybe not doing things as often as we were before, just to take that little bit of pressure off of you. I know you guys are great participants in a lot of the things that we provide. So stepping back as we all reassess and see where the Delta variant and the pandemic takes us. I know from hearing from members during the pandemic that our business community has been greatly affected by the pandemic and resulting supply chain shortages, the shipping delays, and other impacts to your organization. So our staff truly hopes that each of you and your organizations fare well as we try to navigate and exit from the pandemic. And as we end, we'll have one last survey for you. And we use the responses to improve our program and understand the content that you are interested in going forward. So please reach out to Deeks and all of our programs if there's anything that we can help your organization with, help weather the storm from pandemic. And we hope each of you stay safe and well until we can see you again. Have a great rest of your Thursday. Thanks for joining us. See you soon.